somebody's stomach growling out there. Who is that? Is that you? You're looking forward to dinner, aren't you, huh? Come and get it. Now they had a, thank you. They had a saying in camp that life began at 4 o'clock. And that's when the trucks started rolling back into camp. You had about an hour and a half before supper. You went to baseball practice, basketball, boxing, maybe play a game of horseshoes, maybe shoot some pool or play some ping pong at the rec hall. They liked to play poker. They played chess and checkers. A lot of the fellows had angles for making money on the side. You could have your pant legs stitched for 10 cents, get a haircut for 10 or 15 cents. So it was a time to catch up on chores, maybe wash your laundry. Most of the guys sent their laundry out for 75 cents a month. So they kept them a lot of busy. And there was a lot of horseplay going on. They'd go out to the garbage pit. This was mostly up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, where there were a lot of bear. They'd take a pail, put a little molasses in it, and the bear would get its head stuck in there. And you'd have 3 or 4 guys with broomsticks ready to whop that bear in the behind. Yeah. One guy told me they were whapping the bear on the behind and then he shook that pail loose. He said, "You never saw 4 guys run so fast." Yeah. And there's a lot of practical joking going around, a lot of short sheeting of beds, or they put a snake or a dead fish under your sheets. If it was a cold night, they'd put water under your boots. You'd wake up, your boots would be frozen to the floor. Yeah. Or if you snored at night, they'd pick up your cot very gently and take you outside and put you under the stars. It might be 20 below, you know. One guy told me how they would put the cot on the dock on a river, and they'd yell at the guy, "Oh!" He'd roll out of bed into the river. Crazy stuff. Last fall, someone told me his dad was out in Utah, and they were in a saloon. It was midnight, and they were leaving, getting on the truck, and they noticed there was a stuffed mountain lion in the corner of the saloon. And they said, "Hey, let's get it, guys." So they picked it up and brought it back to camp. Well, at midnight, somebody's going to be sleeping, right? So they put that stuffed mountain lion by a guy who was sleeping in his bunk bed. "Hey, Charlie, wake up, man, look out." "Huh, what?" "Hey!" He got up and he started running. And apparently, they couldn't stop him. He was just running. "Hey, it was only a joke. Come on back." They had a great sense of humor. And a lot of wild goose chases. You know what a left-handed monkey wrench is? I don't know if I should tell you. Well, they would make up things like sky hooks, pole stretchers, paper stretchers, striped paint, cannon reports. They'd say, "Okay, come over here, Rookie." "Yes, sir." "The sergeant's looking for the sky hook." "Sky hook? What's that?" Don't ask questions. Just get over to the equipment building and find it. "You guys seen the sky hook?" "Well, I was around here a few minutes ago. Let's go check the supply shed." "You guys seen the sky hook?" "Well, I think it's in the garage." So back and forth. He goes all day long looking for something that doesn't exist. Okay, that's what you call a practical joke, and they did a lot of that stuff. But animals, every camp had mascots: dogs, deer, fox, bear. They'd find these little fox pups and bear cubs in the woods, bring them back and raise them. They'd be domesticated. One guy told me how they had a deer in their camp. He would come into the bunkhouse, and while the guys were sleeping, if their bare foot stuck out from underneath the covers, it would lick their toes. Okay. Another guy told me how they found a deer in the woods, brought it back to camp. It had a broken leg. And the doctor set the leg, they created a harness. After 5 or 6 weeks, it healed up or so, and they let him go. His name was Pete. Well, Pete wouldn't go. He'd go up to the kitchen every night and clack its hooves on the steps, demanding his evening supper. Yeah. And he would sometimes burst in the screen door and start eating the food off the table in the kitchen. A big deer. Oh, the stories they tell. One guy said they had a crow for a mascot. And one guy left camp for 6 months, and he returned 6 months later, and the crow remembered him. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, one fellow told me he was boiling big pots of water, dipping chickens in it to loosen the feathers. The cook told him to take that dirty water and dump it in the garbage pit, which he did, and he dumped it right on the bear cub. So he told me a story and I made a little song of it. One day a boy was hauling hot water in a pail. He dumped it in a garbage pit right on a bear cub's tail. That baby bear made a shriek that made that boy's eyes fly. Across the pit he saw the mother on the other side. That mother bear growled so loud it made that young man cringe. He ran on back to camp so fast the door fell off its hinge. Yeah, Mama Bear got up her hind legs and whoo! He ran in the kitchen so fast the screen door fell off its hinge. Late at night some dogs chased some boys up a tree. They stayed up in the branches wondering how they'd all get free. In the morning a local farmer came to their rescue. He was searching for his hunting dogs led by a hound named Blue. Those boys were so embarrassed they stayed up all the night, running from some friendly dogs that did not want to bite. It was a hot summer night. 4 or 5 guys snuck out and went for a swim in the creek. Walking back, they got chased by the neighbor's dogs, and they thought those were wolves. So they spent the whole night up in the tree getting eaten up by mosquitoes. One day a CC boy went rabbit hunting with his gun. He was told to look out for a wild boar on the run. His fate would have, he saw that boar and put it in his sight. A single shot took down the beast, they cooked it up that night. A farmer came looking for his pig that had run away. The boys collected some money, paid the farmer that day. Yeah, that wasn't a wild boar, it was a neighbor's pig he shot. Well, come on, all you CC boys, join us in the woods. We'd love to give you company, oh yes, we surely would. We don't care where you have come from, we don't care where you have been. When you come into our forest home, your trouble will begin. Yep, a lot of funny stories happen out there in those woods. And that's what happens when you take all these city boys and put them out in the woods. Where did I put my water?
How many years was it?
Oh, okay. No, go ahead. Ask that question again. What was your question?
How many years was the CCC and the WPA?
From 1933 to 1942. But by 1937, it was in decline. Mothers were keeping their sons out of the CCs because the war was brewing over in Europe. And they knew those camps could be turned into military camps. So by 38, 39, they were really in decline. Not very many at all.
Now, did your Michigan guys, let me rephrase this, were everybody, all the CC camps, were everybody in Michigan from Michigan?
No, oh no. They sent a lot of guys from Illinois up to the Upper Peninsula.
That's what
Yeah, and a lot of guys from Detroit up there. But see, the Upper Peninsula has such a small population, and there was so much work to be done, so they had to come from outside of the state.
Okay.
But they would send guys from Illinois to Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula. They wouldn't send guys from Wisconsin to the Upper Peninsula, but usually further away. From the population centers, Chicago and St. Louis and so forth, you know, Detroit, the big cities. They really put out a lot of guys. Yeah. My main character in my book came from Detroit. He was 16 years old, a teenager, a junior in high school. He had one pair of shoes, and they fell apart so bad they flopped when he walked. He said he taped them, he glued them, they kept falling apart. He stole a pair of shoes that was on a table outside of a shoe store. His mother couldn't afford 20 cents for a cobbler to repair his shoes. We ran down the street, cut into an alley, and there was a beat cop having a cigarette. And the cop recognized my main character because he had been caught before stealing. He said I would never go inside of a store to steal, just out on the street, you know, little stuff. Well, the police officer took pity on him. Said, you're a good kid. We just got to get you out of here. And recommended to the judge he'd be allowed to go into the C's. About 10% of the CCs were on probation. In other words, they had a police record. So he has his uniform on, his tie, and his cap. He's going around his neighborhood to the shopkeepers, to the produce market, saying goodbye to people he's grown up with. I hiked to the produce market to say goodbye to my favorite vendor, Mrs. Rosenberg, a short Jewish woman who sold the best fruit in the market. The apples and pears she handled came wrapped in tissue paper and were spotless. She saved the tissues and flattened them on the counter. After she collected a neat pile, she put them in the garbage. My brother and I stopped by on our way home from school. And did I correct that camera? Oh, I did. Okay. I wasn't sure. My brother and I stopped by on our way home from school when we were little boys, and we used to pick through her garbage to find those tissues. We gave them to my mother, who hung them on a nail for toilet paper. As I came up to Mrs. Rosenberg, she picked up 2 apples, said, "Nick, take these on your trip." "Oh, you don't need to do that. I just came to say goodbye." "Oh, take them. You'll need them on the train." We chatted a few minutes about the CCs and then said goodbye. After a few steps, I turned around. "Mrs. Rosenberg, there was something I always wanted to ask you." "Oh, what's that?" "Well, when I was a little boy, I used to go through your garbage." "I know." "Well, sometimes when I was going through your garbage, you threw out fruit that was still good. What'd you do that for?" She smiled gently. "Well, I put it there for you and your brother." "I know, but why?" She sighed. "Because you never begged like the other boys. You never begged." She came around and cupped my face with her hands. "Take care of yourself, Nick. Come see me when you come back." That's my character. He might steal, but he won't beg.
Is your book historical fiction, or is it a
Historical fiction, based on the life of a friend. And they're just stories of all these guys I met over the years. I kind of put them all together. The ending is pure fiction, but the characters and the incidents really did happen. It was a lot of fun writing it. And yeah, he's just a marvelous guy, who I still think about. He just passed on a year ago. So anyway, these guys, they grew up in camp, and it offered them opportunities to improve themselves. After dinner, they brought in teachers, and they called them educational advisors, and they could take classes. These were voluntary classes, and earn their 8th grade diploma, like a GED today. And they were tough questions. You know, if you got a wagon and 8 feet by 10 feet, how many bushels of hay could you figure if the bushels were this big? I mean, they were, you know, Monday night would be math and history, Tuesday would be English, geography, usually 2 classes, 2-hour-long classes in the evenings. And something like 15 to 20% of the C's earned their diplomas. You see, they dropped out for a lot of reasons, young lady. Do you know that some of these guys dropped out of school because they had to take care of their younger brothers and sisters? Some of them dropped out because they had to harvest potatoes. One guy said, "I harvested potatoes for 3 weeks, and when I went to school, I couldn't catch up with the other guys. I was too far behind." Another guy said, "Well, my dad took me out at 15 to work in a scrapyard." So he gave him a second chance. Now, if they didn't take regular classes, they could take vocational courses: welding, engine repair, truck driving, drafting, all types of classes. And in the red notebook on the table in back, you'll see on the back of their discharge papers, you'll see the, you know, certified for welding. And when they left the camps and went into the private sector, they got hired quickly, and they had some skills there. Now, that didn't keep them busy enough. They had a ham radio club. They had a photography club. They had hillbilly bands. They had a camp newspaper. It was like high school. The newspapers are really cute. They always had a humor section. This is typical CC humor. Betty says, "I hope everyone notices my new hat." Belinda says, "Then you better lower your skirt 6 inches. How about this one? "How is a small boy and a canoe alike? They both behave better when paddled from the rear." Just corny humor. But it kept them busy, and that was one of the secrets. You see, for 16 hours a day, they kept them busy. The other 8 hours, they were in bed sleeping. And they never had to ask them twice to go to bed. At 10 o'clock, they hit the hay, they were out. They had a long day. They lived for the weekends. Saturday night, they were off at noon, and work began Monday morning. And so they could go into town to the bowling alleys, roller skating rinks. They went to the movies, the saloons, the dance halls. They loved meeting the girls. Many met their wives in the camp. And the girls were actually pretty aggressive in those towns. One fellow said, you go to the movie theater, be kicking on the back of your chair, excuse me, hey girl, hey guys, you want to share a popcorn with us? One woman said she and her girlfriends would go to the movie theater Saturday night, and they would wait out on the sidewalk for the CC truck to pull up. And then they would pair off with the CCs and hold their hands during the movie. One woman said at the dance halls, you'd have two girls dancing with each other, and the guys would come in and they would buddy up, and they'd make little signs like, hey, can we cut in on YouTube? They'd kind of check them out, and okay. They'd come over and cut in. So the girls made themselves available. One fellow told me how he was at a lunch counter, and this young lady came up to his buddy, and she said, I don't talk to CCC boys unless I know their names first. That's how she introduced herself. So one woman told me, she said, I'll never forget, I was at an ice skating rink, and there were 3 CCC boys trying to tie my skates at the same time. So a lot of them met their wives in that period. Anyway, the CCCs had a tremendous impact on these people for 4 or 5 reasons. Number 1, 3 square meals a day, 8 hours of sleep, hard work. You know, when you're angry and you're bitter at life, give them an axe, give them a shovel. Get good role models. Those local experienced men, those officers, you know, they took them under their wings. Many of these guys had no dad-father figures. They kept them busy for 16 hours a day. And lastly, it taught them to be good Samaritans. You know, when they originally came into these towns, there was a lot of resentment toward them. Farmers were jealous. How come those guys are being paid $1 a day to build our roads? Why don't we have that job? So there was resentment there. And they called them roughnecks, cross-country crooks, cross-country convicts. You know, so you know, but what happened is when there were blizzards and floods and windstorms, who came to the rescue? You know, if a child was lost in the woods, who put together the rescue party? If there was a car accident, who sent their ambulance to help them out? So it's a story upon story of how they helped the locals in so many little ways. But all these cumulatively shaped these young men and turned them into, you know, solid citizens and really shaped them up. For those that stayed behind and stuck it out. But I think one woman said it best. She said, you know, you forgot something. She said the greatest thing the CCCs did for America was give us a lot of great husbands. Anyway, thank you so much for coming out this evening. I appreciate it. Any follow-up questions?
Were they recruited, or like the Army?
They enlisted.
I want you, or did they just post a sign in the post office and
Well,
people signed up? Or?
Well, it's like my buddy here. He was encouraged to sign up for it, okay? Kind of given a choice. But yeah, they were recruited. Every town had a recruiting officer. It was a woman. And it was advertised, 1 child per family, 17 to 25 years of age. You had to be in good health, you know, but yeah, they were actually recruited. But again, in some cases, they were encouraged to sign up.
So they had to pass physicals.
Yes, yeah.
Like
And
the
they were
Army
sent down to
standards.
Fort Knox, Kentucky for their physicals and shots and everything. If you like these stories, so my book is available for $15. It's chock full of these stories. I'll be happy to autograph it. And the proceeds support my daughter's freshman year in college. And the DVD is also available for $20. And it's an hour long. It's about Michigan CCCs, but it has a lot of interesting stories as well. So, any other comments? Yes?
You had mentioned the camps being turned into military training. Did they do that? Did they
No.
use them later? No.
They shut them down. When Pearl Harbor came, they shut them down. And